I built an Adeptus Arbites Precinct entirely from 3D printed terrain, and honestly, this might be the best modular terrain system I've ever used. What's up, nerds? I'm Sam from Big Nerds Wargaming. Is it just me, or does it feel like Games Workshop really doesn't want you to buy their terrain anymore? I'd even go a step further and say it feels like they're slowly pivoting away from general purpose terrain and more towards bespoke sets tied to specific game modes like kill team kill zones or boarding actions. I remember when there was a huge variety of high quality terrain kits available. Now, the options are pretty slim, often out of stock, and let's be honest, very expensive. If you want to fill a full table with official terrain, you might end up spending as much as your entire army, if not more. Luckily, aside from scratch building, we've got third-party options, but even pre-painted grimdark terrain sets can get pretty pricey fast. This is where 3D printing has completely changed the game. It gives you the power to print as much terrain as you want with access to designs from hundreds, if not thousands, of creators. And over the years, I've built up a pretty big library of terrain files that work pretty well in the Warhammer grimdark aesthetic, but I think my favorite terrain designer by far is Fabricator's Lair. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you've probably seen their terrain pop up in a few of my builds. I've printed a lot of third-party terrain over the years, and I have yet to find another creator that captures the grimdark 40K look as well without feeling generic or off-brand. Recently, they launched their latest set through a Kickstarter called Gothic Sector Fortress. Now this set includes trenches, bunkers, turrets, defensive batteries, fortress walls, and a fully modular building system. Basically everything you need for a proper Hive City siege table. Now, full disclosure, I did receive these STL files for free to support this video. However, I've backed several of their previous Kickstarters in the past with my own money, and I would have happily picked up this one as well. Their terrain is consistently well engineered, fairly priced, and they regularly push updates with free additions to past buyers, which is honestly pretty rare. Where these packs really shine is the modular system. You get a huge variety of walls, doors, floors, pillars, and damage variants as well, so you can craft your bunkers in any state of decay. Everything connects with their clip and peg system, which makes assembling buildings surprisingly fast. If you want to check it out yourself, links are in the description below. So what am I actually building with all of this? Lately, I've been diving back into the older editions of 40K, especially 4th edition, and those books were packed with amazing scratch-built terrain. One piece that always stuck out to me was the Adeptus Arbites Precinct from the old 3rd edition City Fight supplement. Those photos just had so much character, so I decided to build my own Arbites Precinct using the modular system from this set. And to keep things manageable, I started off small. Inside the modular pack, Fabricator's Lair includes several example buildings with full parts list, which is perfect if the full system feels a bit overwhelming at first. I found a gate checkpoint example that looked perfect for this precinct and set the printer to work. And this is where the project really started to snowball. All the files come pre-supported and optimized for both FDM and resin printers. Since I primarily print terrain in FDM, I ran these on my Bamboo Lab A1, and the prints came out extremely clean. Honestly, huge credit goes here not just to the printer, but to the engineering behind these files. Everything connects using their peg and clip system, and you just snap the clip in and start connecting walls and pillars. It's honestly kind of like Lego, and just as satisfying to build. With the checkpoint done, I started expanding. More buildings. More bunkers, and eventually, a proper HQ structure. At this point, I mostly let the build evolve organically rather than pre-planning every structure. Once the buildings were coming together, I knew this project needed a proper base to really sell the precinct feel. In several previous terrain campaigns, Fabricator's Lair also released a fully modular ground system, so I went digging through my SCL library to see what it already had on hand. I ended up pulling tiles from the modular ground system Grimdark Gothic set, which fit the Arbites aesthetic perfectly. Now normally these files are designed as 5" by 5" interlocking sections with built-in connectors on the underside. That system works great if you want a fully modular gaming board that breaks down and reconfigures, but for this project I had something slightly different in mind. Long term, I eventually want to build a full 6 by 4 foot modular table. Working at 5" increments can get a little awkward when you're trying to hit clean board dimensions. So what I did is I scaled the files to 120% on the X and Y axis, which brings them from 5 by 5 to 6" by 6". That way, when I eventually expand into a full table, the math just works out nicely. The other big change I made was to the thickness. Normally, these tiles are about 1/4 inch thick and include a full connector system underneath. But since I knew I wanted to mount these on MDF, I really didn't need all of that extra bulk. So inside Bamboo Studio, I did a quick Z-axis slice and basically removed the bottom portion of the tile, leaving just the detailed surface layer. Now when it comes to painting terrain, I'm extremely impatient. I want maximum quality for minimum time, so here's my go-to method. First up, big makeup brush. Heavy dry brush of Thunderhawk blue all over the black primer. This is basically my terrain cheat code for bringing out detail fast. Then a lighter dry brush of Celestia Gray to build the highlights. For the metal areas, I went with Mournfang Brown and Trollslayer Orange. Silver dry brush to bring back some metallic contrast. This part was a bit more time consuming, but I added some brass scorpion detail to sell the Inquisition aesthetic. Finally, some Mephiston red accents to really push the Imperial Agent's color palette. For the tiles, I masked off the intersections and built up a worn metal look with layered dry brushing. Then I switched to the airbrush for the outer tile areas using a bluish gray followed by Celestia Gray edge highlights to make everything pop. Once the concrete and the road sections were finished, there was only one thing left to do. I gotta say, this turned out even better than I expected. The modular system made this dramatically easier to design than traditional scratch builds, and flexibility here is honestly kind of ridiculous. Huge shout out to Fabricator's Lair for providing the Gothic Sector Fortress files for this project. And if you want to see more terrain builds like this, hit subscribe. I've got more projects coming soon. And if you're looking for more terrain crafting or narrative battle reports, I've got playlists for both right here. And thanks for watching. I'll leave you with some cool cinematic shots from the finished precinct. See you in the next one. Bye.